Hey everyone, Matt here from Herbal House, and in this video we are taking a look at the latest generation of the Auto-Klone 40. So they've made a few adjustments to these thanks to customer feedback. We've worked with the supplier to basically make this an even better unit than what they were. So before I touch on those, why would you want an autocloner? For a lot of people it's an ease thing. You're not essentially having to take your cuttings and put them in peat pots or soil or anything like that. You're going to use the foam collars, and there's 40 of them, so you can propagate or have at least up to 40 chances to propagate. So with propagating there's obviously a bit of a method to it, or a bit of a knack, and that is ensuring that the conditions are perfect for the plants inside. So that's a temperature thing. We would recommend using a heat mat under one of these if you're struggling to maintain that sort of mid-20s to even up to 30 degrees of temperature, and of course the lighting will have a big impact. So with this particular one they've now got a dome lid on the top which fits a propagation light from Four Seasons perfectly on top, but to be fair, any propagation light should do the job. You just want to make sure it's the correct CCT and not sitting too close or too far away. This seems to be a pretty good height for these. Alas, to the improvements that they have made to this unit. So we've taken customer feedback, and that was the submersible pump that was installed in the base of this unit. We had issues with basically if you ran out of water, it would run the pump dry, you wouldn't know, you'd have a pump failure, or at least the risk of that. So we weren't too stoked about that, so we've spoken with the supplier and we've had them change to an external diaphragm pump, which is just on the outside here. Now these are a very grunty pump, and they are capable of running dry for a fair amount of time, at least long enough until you can see that, you know, there's some problems there and you need to add more water. But that's all, of course, also meant that we now have these external hoses, and the manifold inside has seen some adjustments to compensate for that. So we're getting a much more of an aeroponics style environment in there, a really high amount of mist rather than a more watery sort of hose spray, which should hopefully improve your hit rate with your propagating or your clones. So what we're going to do is going to take a closer look and show you what's going on inside. Alrighty, so I mentioned earlier we've now got this clear dome on the top. So for this particular unit, the 40, they've built a clear top to go over the clones or cuttings. That's nice because it's going to keep that humidity up, and it's going to help retain some temperature around the plant. So they're going to appreciate that. But moving on, I'll get off to the side. We have the foam collars here, so they're just little inserts that are going to go over the top. These are reusable, of course, because you don't want to have to replace these every time. So you just peel those open, put your cutting through, have about 2 inches hanging underneath, and of course use some cloning gel or solution there. So that's the lid. Now I'll just peel this one off so you can see the magic underneath. Now, I don't know if you can quite see that, but we've got the new manifold here, which is using these sprayers. I'll just pull that off so you can see. So there's a 4-way sprayer, 2 of those, and they just push on like so. The water pickup, which runs through to the pump, and then it pumps straight back around and is going to spray around there. So we'll just get a close up and we'll get that up and running. We've already spilt water everywhere, but we'll give you a shot just so you can see what's going on there. Okay, so I'm just going to plug it in here. Just run that for a few seconds, just getting water absolutely everywhere. So the pumps aren't too loud considering how grunty they are. They do have rubber feet under them, so you just mount that anywhere suitable. To be fair, the lines are reasonably flexible, so we've just set this up to show you a demonstration. Got water everywhere, but as you can see that was a really lovely spray pattern and more of an aeroponic style, a fine mist. So when you have the lid on the top, it's just going to be absolutely perfect. So our recommendations for running this pump, at least from our customers' feedback, is you want to run the pump 15 minutes on and 15 minutes off during the light cycle. So you'd turn that off when your lights turn off, no problem there, and that's what we're finding works the best. And don't forget, we would recommend that heat mat directly underneath just to keep the water nice and warm if you're struggling in winter time to keep those conditions comfortable for your plants. So now that we've covered the operation of this, I'm just going to give you a breakdown of the parts that are included. Starting with the bulk of the equipment here, you're going to have your lid, which I've just put the foam inserts in, so there's going to be a pack of foam inserts. You just pop those in there. You're going to have the tub, which has got holes at either end there, one small, one large. I'll cover actually putting this thing together very shortly. Got your manifold, the pump, power supply for the pump, the nozzles for the manifold, a rubber grommet, a pickup, water pickup for the pump that is, and the couple bits of hoses. So that's essentially all the parts you're going to need to put this together. Oh sorry, one thing I did forget actually is the clear dome lid, which is a little bit big to get into the shot. That's just off to the side. So I'm going to show you how to put this together. Okay, so to kick off the assembly, we're going to start with the large hole side over here. You'll see there's actually a large and a small on either end. Starting with the large side, we're going to take this fitting here. So this is the blue piece of pipe. This will probably how it'll be delivered to you. You've got the blue piece of pipe with the spigot connect to the nipple here. So there's actually a rubber O-ring that I've just pulled off that'll be sitting on that spigot. So you're just going to pop that O-ring off and you're going to just poke that through there. So you've got the threaded end on the inside and just roll that O-ring onto the inside. So that's just going to hold it there for the meantime. You're going to take your manifold and what we're going to do is we're just going to wind that onto that fitting. It's like a crank handle. Just going to spin that around until it gets nice and tight. Not too tight because you're just squeezing an O-ring, and then we'll just rotate the entire assembly around so that's sitting in the bottom there. So that's pretty much the manifold in place. I will say at this time it's probably a good place to add the spray nozzles. So what you're going to do is you're just going to put those on the top and push them down onto the uprights, just like so. So you can twist these around, but to be fair, there's enough misting action that you probably don't need to. So that's essentially the manifold side, and probably can't see that there. I've just got the blue hose coming off the side there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip this around and show you the small hole, which we've now got over here. And this is where you're going to be putting in the water pump pickup. So starting here, there's a little white O-ring, and that's just going to pop right into the tub. Now this might take a little bit of finesse, as O-rings tend to do, or grommets, sorry. That's just going to work its way into there like so. Now, being the pump pickup here, you've got one hose left, one big blue section of hose, this one here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to poke that section of hose through best we can without actually having it fit, because it's super tight. I can just squeeze that one through properly. There we go. Twist and push, and we've got a bit poking through. So if you've never used fittings like this, which I don't expect many people have, they've actually got a little collar on each end. Now, when you push the collar in, like so, it means that the hose can go on, and when you've got the hose in there, you're going to pull that collar out a wee bit, and what that's going to do is just going to tighten the fitting onto the pipe. So when we were doing our testing, we didn't have any issues with this sort of thing leaking or anything like that, but just so you're aware. Now, you can see we've just popped that onto there, so now we've got a water pickup. Now, you don't really want that water pickup sitting hard up against the bottom of the tub, because it's not going to pick up any water if it's hard up against it. You're going to have that on a little bit of an angle just so it can sip the water off the bottom of the tray there. Now, we've pretty much finished for the inside, and what we're going to do is we're just going to move around and show you how we would connect the water pump. Okay, so I've just set the pump in the front here. We've got the manifold, we've got the water pickup coming around this side, and we've got to the manifold here. So what you'll see, if you actually can see on your pump up close, there's actually a little arrow which is pointing the direction of flow. So if I've got it sitting this way, it's going to be blowing water out of the pickup, which is not ideal. So what we're going to do is we're just going to flip that around so the flow is correct. And what we're going to do is we're just going to hook it up to either end of the pump. Now these have got some pretty interesting compression fittings here, which I'm just going to loosen off, remove the little rubber caps. So these just wind off the side and just like so. Okay, so putting those out of the way, we now have our pump. So we've got these two blue caps. We're just going to slip it over the hose. And what you're going to do is you're just going to force this fitting, or sorry, the hose over the pump nipple there. So these are a pretty tight fit, I will say, and can require a little bit of finesse, we'll say. If you do struggle and you don't have the grip strength, no stress at all. What I'd do is just boil the jug and just dip the hose in some warm water for 30 seconds, and that'll soften it right up and it'll just push on nice and easy. But because we don't have the jug nearby, I'm just going to work that fitting on just with a little bit of strain, because they're a really good fit. So that's one. And we're just going to tighten that cap back on. Make sure you put the cap on the hose first, because not a fun mistake to do again. And I'm just going to get that one on there. A little bit of twisting helps. And then I'm just going to tighten that one onto there, like so. Alright, so we've just set this up using the full amount of hose that's supplied. You of course don't have to. The hose is reasonably flexible or malleable, so you could set this up wherever you need to. Now please bear in mind these pumps are not waterproof, but they are fed from this DC supply. So worst case scenario, if you do get it wet, it is perfectly safe because it's only DC 12 volt, but please bear that in mind. You don't want to get it wet, it's not a submersible pump. So what you do is you just plug that in, hook it up to your timer, fill it up with water, cycle it on and off every 15 minutes, and make it turn off at the end of your cycle, or sorry, the light cycle, then have it start again at the start. So let's just slap the lid on the top, like so. And then what you do is put the hot house, or sorry, the clear dome over the top for that added humidity buffer. But just like that, they're pretty straightforward assembly. I will say that this is a very high pressure pump, so if you do have leaks, you'll find out about them very quickly. In the initial phase of getting this up and running is when you want to be checking for those leaks and making sure that you're not going to have any water issues there. The water will last quite a long time once you do fill it up. And in terms of filling it up, I thought I'd just show you. You're pretty much going to fill the water level up till it's just below the nozzles, because anything above the nozzle is pointless. You're just going to be splashing water around in there. You still want that spray. So it can hold, I think it's around 9 to 10 litres quite comfortably, which will last a very long time. But overall, we're really impressed to see the sort of improvements that they've made to this unit. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions, get in touch with us here at Herbal House. Thanks for watching.